Good afternoon. Last speech of the day, hopefully successfully managed. So I will speak about European ground squirrel, Souslik, which is critically endangered species in Czech Republic, also elsewhere. And I will speak briefly about how it became from the common species to critically endangered species, and then how we try with some commercial trademarks to help the species survive in the agricultural land of Czech Republic. So, European ground squirrel is the endemic species for Central and East Europe. So the distribution in Czech Republic is actually the most western part of its range, and it's spreading from Czech Republic to Balkan countries. In the 50s of 20th century, it was agricultural pest, and actually the species, the state was paying money to farmers to kill the animal, and it's also, you can see it in the name, which is like common, which means something that is really common, so it was everywhere. But today it's critically endangered, so 50 years later we are successfully eradicating our common species. Why that's happened? Typical Souslik habitat in the past was small field, orchard, vineyard, fields of roads, fallow land, pastures, simply any kind of somehow stepping habitat with relatively short grass that the Souslik have some overview about what's going on in this environment around, especially predators. So why did Souslik disappear from Czech Republic? It's simple. They lost the environment. We industrialized our agriculture in the way that we did quite some land consolidation. So our average field size in Czech Republic is now 5.9 hectares, which is really big. We lost a lot of edges, fallow lands, field roads, small meadows, and we lost many pastures. And you could see it also in the presentation in the morning with the field birds, how the landscape was in the 15th. And this is the picture from this place here, Velké Pavlovice. In 50s of 20th century, it was really quite some small fields with different crops and pastures. And nowadays it's just few very big fields. So this is not the environment for the ground squirrel. So what has happened to the Souslik? Typical current locality in Czech Republic is simply shortcut grass localities such as airports, camps, golf courses. So simply some pieces of the land which is for the hobby activities for the people. And general landscape simply don't provide, agricultural landscape don't provide enough habitat for the species. Current distribution of Souslik colonies in the Czech Republic is very scattered. There are about 40 localities which are very isolated. The red ones are the ones which I said in this typical artificial grass cut short airports and so on. The yellow ones are the remains which are like here in Pavlovice, the agricultural land which is used for the agricultural production. From these few points, you can see that there is really some problem for these isolated colonies, and this is isolation, which means inbreeding depression, loss of genetic diversity, no immigration, loss of immigrants because they emigrate somewhere to the not proper environment. Then because you have the small colonies, you have strong impact of catastrophes like floods or whatever happens in the management of the places. And this all leads to the fact that when you plot and you make some study on survival rate within the years, you can see that most of our population don't have very high probability of survival over the next 50 years due to this isolation. Of course, people in Czech Republic, conservation people, are aware of this fact that this is really starting to be a problem, and there is an action plan for the species in the Czech Republic, which is organized by the State Nature Conservation Agency for the Czech Republic. And it has many activities. I mean, at the beginning, it was really focusing on providing money for proper management of the localities. But nowadays, it's more changing and it's more proactive. And we see now that what we need and what was somehow introduced to this action plan is some kind of meta population models. So we would like to have in the future population of colonies of Sousliks in the way that there are meta populations, which is small colonies which are mutually interconnected, which means that there could be immigration and emigration between the places, and this should, according to the models, somehow guarantee the survival for longer years, for a longer perspective. So nowadays the activities are really quite some focusing on establishing some new population and trying to reconnect the existing populations. We came in the game like ALKA Wildlife about 7 years ago, and we focus on the farmland, not these airports and graveyards and so on. And why? Because we think that it's much easier to do the meta populations in the agriculture, which is agricultural land, which is still quite diverse and provides space for the Sousliks. So you can see in the background some picture of the area here around. I don't know what it is. It's western part of the town, and we try to do some research in the area on the demography, how to monitor it, because it's much more difficult than in these open airports or graveyards. And we try to make some habitat model to find out what are the key structures of the landscape which are actually necessary for the Souslik, because this is not very typical landscape from the modern perspective of Czech Sousliks. What we do also are some conservation actions. So we do some management. We try to cut some steppe meadows which were abandoned. We try to plant some trees which are providing some extra food for the Sousliks. But as we realize that we are too few and the landscape is too big, we realize that it's simply not enough our activity to provide enough space for the Souslik. So we come to the point when we realize that we need help of farmers, that they change their way of farming in the way that Souslik can coexist with them. And when you think about the farmers, you have actually two groups of farmers in Czech Republic. You have the first ones, which are really living on it as a professionals, and you have to convince them that they tolerate the Souslik or somehow prevent the damages caused by Sousliks, because in the past, as I mentioned in the 50s, it was really some serious agricultural pest species. And the second are the farmers, or you can say wine growers or fruit growers, which can provide the space for the Sousliks, and they need not necessarily suffer any damage from the Souslik. So what we are trying to now figure out is actually what is the effect of the Souslik on the crop when you have it next door, what you can expect. So this is some experiment with the cages where you can see the alfalfa field, and there are actually two kind of cages. One is Souslik not possible to enter, and one is where Souslik can easily go. And then you can see the alfalfa plants in the, and you can imagine what is Souslik doing with the alfalfa. There is very little to be left for the farmer in some places. But the situation is not so bad like this. It could be only, we realize that they are invading these fields only for distance of 4 to 6 meters, and then so the rest of the field is relatively safe from the Sousliks. The second farmers, which are also living from the crops, are the family farmers. You know, they have small fields like in one in Brna, the village, where they have really a lot of local people, a lot of small corn and grain and maize, whatever they produce for their own consumption. And they also said Souslik also caused some damage to them. And we try to do some experiments to see if it's really causing the damage and if you can really protect it. And we try to do some kind of, see here some small plantation of I don't know what it's called, probably cauliflower or kohlrabi. And you see that the Souslik is definitely interested in, but they are respecting the cage and they don't eat. If there is a cage, no cage, they will simply eat it to the last plant. So measures exist and we must convince the people to use it. Then the second big group of the producers are those who have actually no damage on their crop, which are people which have orchards or vineyards. Orchards because the Sousliks are simply squirrels, but ground squirrels. They don't climb the trees to get the food. So what they do, they collect some which is left on the ground, of course, and they make nice use of it. And with the wine, it's simply, they would be interested in the grapes. I'm sure they are perfect for them, but they are growing in the way in the time when the Souslik is already underground. So they actually not need to, so they cannot use this resource. So these farmers simply don't have any damage from the Sousliks. They can simply tolerate them. But of course, not every orchard and vineyard is good for Sousliks. On the left, you can see the vineyard which is without grass. So it's no habitat for the Souslik. I mean, they cannot feed there anything. They don't eat the grape or plants of grapes. So they need the grassy vineyard. And same is also with the orchards. If there is no grass, no Sousliks. And also the grass should not be too long because then there is high predation. So you need some investment from the farmers to plant the grass and mow it once a time. So we were thinking how to involve the farmers into the game, that they are interested in the Sousliks and they somehow start to protect it. And we took the inspiration from Austria, where they start to produce some labels for the wine bottles from the wine vineyards where they have Sousliks. And we developed and registered 2 trademarks, which is one is on the left. This one is for the Sousliks on the vineyards, and the other one is on the Sousliks on the orchard. And actually, these are the Souslik friendly trademarks. And we registered them like official. And if the wine grower or the producer of the fruits fulfill some requirements from us, which is basically they have the Sousliks, so they provide the habitat for them, which means in the case of the vineyards, grass at least in half of the rows of the plants. They use no rodenticides, which is really necessary because Souslik is the rodent, so it would poison him. They could get this mark. They can use it for their products. For the moment, we are locally successful with the trademark, and we have quite some wine growers already registered, and they can use on their bottles of wines this trademark. And we have, for the moment, 2 producers of fruits, apricots, which also got the other trademark. We try to do the promotion for this, of course, because you have many marks on the wine, especially quality ones, you know, from different competitions and so on. So we try to promote to the public that this is something what, when the bottle has it, it means that it's somehow nature-friendly product. We not only provide them the stickers, but they got some certificates, they have leaflets, magnets, t-shirts, and other stuff. So they could use it in their kind of necessary, I mean, you know, promotion of their products. A part of that, of course, we must get this trademark to the public. So we try to do the promotional and educational activities, info stands at various occasions, usually connected with some kind of activities within the wine areas. We have wine tasting actions. We try to involve somehow TV and radio too. We have a web page at Facebook, which is quite standard nowadays, I think. So when you think about it, like we have done it for 7 years and we had some expectations from that, and we have some results already after the 7 years. So there are some negatives and positives. So the problem generally with this trademark is that we didn't know it when you come from the outside, is that the farmers generally are not uniform group. they are big diverse group of stakeholders. Even within the wine growers, you find different groups which are producing the wine in different style. They have different selling routes and different marketing. So it's really challenging to somehow get all of these groups together. What is necessary is long-term activity. At the beginning, we were quite sure that we would be able to do it somehow self-financing. So we would sell the trademarks, the stickers, for some amount of money, and then we could use the money for promotion and monitoring of the species. But for the moment, it's not that much working like that, because generally the biggest problem is that Moravian wine, I mean, they can sell without any sticker in the country. So there is virtually not much competition, because we still 2/3 of our consumption is imported. So, and the Moravian wine is good trademark itself, so people are able to simply pay a lot of money without trademark, independent of it. It's very difficult to assess the success of it, of course, because we don't really know it. It's even because they don't have it like part of the marketing strategy. When you ask them, they don't tell you how many bottles people were interested just because of the trademark, the Souslik, or just buy anyway. What is good, on the other hand, is really close into the connection with stakeholder groups, not only with the conservationists. So we are working really with the farmers, and you have a reason to talk with them. Not only this crazy animal, but also something to offer them, which is really good. It's a positive tool in nature protection. You don't pay them, you don't subsidize any damage with this trademark. You just give them some additional marketing tool to promote their products. So this is also very positive. You have also the tool to educate the public, because you have many things connected with these trademarks. So you can really access the public with that. Souslik is a cute animal. This we had already in the presentations before. I mean, when the animal is nice, it's much easier to do the promo for the conservation of the animal. And what is also important, and it's probably, I mean, the way how to go on, is that we promote species protection and the local regional products, which is starting to be more and more important probably. And of course, I mean, this opens the doors, because you can really regularly meet the farmers and try to understand how they are working, and what are their needs, and how they simply see it. And many of them, even if they have not straight profit from selling the Souslik wine, let's say, they still acknowledge that this is something special, the animal, and it gives more attention, positive attention to the region, and they can somehow make use of it. So as I said, I mean, success of the generally such a kind of trademark can be used for any kind of species to be conserved, but the success of it, and this, I mean, especially something what is self-financing, which we are really searching for, because the money in conservation are definitely limited. So success depends on many factors and details, and sometimes it's really difficult to estimate the success just before you start, because you don't know properly the target group and what will happen. So of course, I mean, because it's 7 years already running, we have a lot of co-workers. There are some mentions. We have quite some projects which were running already, which we are working. So, and that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks for your talk. Turn down the presentation, please, so we can see you on the big screen. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay. So, is there any question about ground squirrels?
Again.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you want to know? Now you have the chance to know everything you wanted to know about the ground.
Yeah, we will become ground squirrel experts this afternoon.
Yeah, and even more tomorrow when we go to the discussion. We have a question.
I'm interested how to negotiate in a way to get a trademark because you discuss it with some minister or
no. I mean, it's just you and the lawyer. Generally, there is some office which is registering trademarks. So it's, I mean, you must invest some money, not much. Around 1,000 of Czech crowns.
10,000 to register and to pay the office, and I think like 7,000 pay to lawyers.
Because I mean, then we have with every man who has it, we have the contract, you know, the rules, of course.
Of course, it is necessary to can make it, but like if nobody else can
I mean, with the trademark, you must always think about the exclusivity because you want that they fulfill some conditions, and if somebody else, because I mean, there are quite some wines which with animals on the labels already, but this is something a bit different.
Yeah, and I would like to ask, do you think about conservation and life balance that they feel like must be so important that people can see the Souslik in their farms or something like that?
I mean, generally, is some stickers in the vineyards. The problem generally is probably the vineyards are not the optimal habitat. We don't want to involve like they do in Slovakia, so it's extremely rare to see them. So I mean, of course, they try to tell the clients, especially here, because here we have usually provide accommodation for the clients, and provide them with your wine and so on. So the people are roaming around, and of course they try to tell them where the Sousliks are, but I must say personally, it's difficult to see them. So for the moment, the population status here is not for that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I don't know.
Any more questions? Very good. It looks like even the internet connection is getting tired after this.
It's been a long day.
So thank you very much.